meeting minutes. Have you had a chance to read the modifications?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the minutes from our last.
Second it.
First and second. In favor?
Aye.
Next, bill pay, please. Road and bridge.
Morning. He's got my activity list. We're just kind of on snow removal. Trying to keep up. Doing a little repair work. Some guards have been putting sliding through some cattle guards, knocking off posts, and had a guardrail get hit up on the lake. Just took it off and got it barreled for now. We'll get it fixed. Not what room bridge is up to. Plans. Stay ahead of these storms.
How's equipment going?
Yeah, no, you know, just the cylinders. I shouldn't say that. That's kind of, yeah, no, we're doing good.
Thanks.
Really, road bridge is up to. What do you got, Eric?
I just got a couple project updates. Got the proposal openings Thursday for the industrial site cattle guard project. So tabulated and reported on to you guys. Not a whole lot of interest, but I'm meeting with somebody from the Vail Valley on the industrial site project tomorrow to go over it. Sometimes no interest needs a other than that, that's all I have right now.
Yes, please.
So I seen in the bills that there you do some work to the fairgrounds.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they do that. Do you see a schedule when something happen or what?
That one I'll have to talk to Mike because he's working on that project and I shoot you an email.
Well, or show up because there's like 4 different projects there.
Uh-huh.
And this was on the stage and the restrooms. Yeah, if you could come in because we talked about the restroom maybe for one station and something.
Yeah, no, I can come in next week. I know him and Jay met last week to talk about stuff. I was working on projects, but I just an appearance meeting.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I may add to that, like talked to the other day called, and they've taken the old restrooms off the side of that one building, and now they've got some drainage issues. I think a lot of their work was close enough to finish. They decided to get the hearing all done. He does want to look at putting a valley pan in place for what'll be the future, just to keep the water from running. But a lot of the had in mind, he thought he'd delay until when.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about delay. I just thought,
Yeah.
Did you discuss it? Does that have anything to do with the new restrooms that are out there, kind of where the play? Yeah.
Like to get that in place if not.
So, got you on. So what about some of that windmill? You know what
He's working on that. That's the building he's working. They tore those restrooms off. Now they go. He has most of that stuff in place. Projects.
That's where they used to keep like.
On the side of that building. Yeah, I don't know what building the oak one.
Yeah,
Flowers.
Gonna strip the ceiling or something, I think.
Yeah, I don't know what.
Well, I'll stop there. That's good.
Also, on bridge with Peter, every so many years we go in, he's got that pit that's bucks down. We go in there and crush, and we stockpile way down by county line. Just repair work out. We've used everything. Working with him on an agreement to crush some in his pit, so we stockpile, because it's just, we have 1,000 in our, still almost 20, for this pit. Way cheaper. I'll be. Other than that, that's all I got for road and bridge. Transfer stations. Real slow. Right now, it's slow. So it's been a lot of construction's just slow right now. It always slows up a little bit, but it's about half of what it is. But it'll pick up. Waste management is just goes really good. The shredder's still running good. It's there. Thing over there, just the dealer's working good. There's some guys coming to date some of the 30 years. Amazing as it is. We've been upgrading that, so we're doing some more of the eyes and the way it functions and the way the system works. He'll be here to get that fixed. Other than that, that's what's happening there. The other thing I got is golf course. Finally, I've been dealing with Dave and Cynthia with the restaurant. Finally got it where they are the first to get in there. Went over some stuff. And I did add, they did a damage deposit. Added the inspection so we make sure the bill get like it was. Clayton looked at it. He said it was fine. I got Cynthia to sign it now. Mr. Chairman, you sign it.
How did they want to move forward with the damage deposit?
They're just gonna make payment. And they have one, end of the year. Just gonna have it.
Thank you.
Other than that,
Please.
So out there, are we kind of done with major purchases at the, what's it look like? Any idea what we might be facing near future?
a lot of the stuff we ordered is just now starting. We'll have some building site. We got the pro shop's done. We got all that not done, but I mean, it's all that. the major stuff, except for the roof. It's like we'll end up at. But
All for
yeah, because we doing that lease.
Because before we paid for them.
Yeah,
The time before.
and that's kind of, we could, at the end of the lease, they pay for all the, anything in the park, the stuff like.
Like the mower.
We gotta
Problems with the
pay-
mower? No, the big mowers.
Well, it's supposed to be. That's really when we order. Even that, we, large stuff, we have that, sharpening. All I got.
What's the term of the leases on the carts? The 3 years?
No, they're like 5.
Okay, good enough. Good.
And then get the. If you
I saw that we got booked around June 30th of last year, $25,000 returned because of an early turn-in on the product. Is that right?
Right.
It worked out well.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Mr. Andre? Good morning.
So, let's see, we got, Marlton Senior Center paint is all done, equipment got moved back in, it got really nice. The floor's done, it looks really good. Smoothly, actually went a lot quicker and better than I expected. We've never moved much equipment out before. It was gonna.
I was over there last week. It looks really nice.
It does look nice.
Yeah,
doesn't
it's a
it?
good job.
So that's all finished up. We probably need to have a discussion on talking about current budgets and things like that. 4-H parking, the paving that. That's one of those things that is still scheduled to be done, but so that it's an. It's not a necessity, but later on, better have to make that decision because, to be honest with you, this decision to have it done was I wasn't even. So I was called and told, hey, get it done. But
Is it in the lease that we will pave it or?
no.
Okay.
So it was just an idea. It came from Tom Noble, and I think I get what why he wanted it done. We have some concrete valleys out there, that are that go and we plow across those. He was concerned that we were going to tear them. That's really very unlikely because we pack that snow down over the top, quite a ways before we ever start plowing out there. We've been plowing ever since she was hitting. But, so as far as I'm concerned, it's not a necessity.
Is there any push from the tenants about having it done?
No, because that was actually just our, they're asking for. It's just something Tom discussed. And I didn't put it on in my budget originally because I had asking for a lot. Often I'll ask, Sam had called and he said, "Oh no, it was discussed in here." And I don't even know that. Something we.
Commissioner White, anything on that?
Oh, I know we was gonna do that in combination with the search and rescue building parking lot. If we don't do it, does it make one go extremely
I'll
on
go
one or
talk
not?
to him and find. I seen Mike. And I said, this may not be. It's always it's already designed and the other part of that is I still have to get Dan Liskey out there, electrical in lights that. So he gets ground thaws out. I don't know when we can't even do that pavement. He gets his part done, tearing up, put in. No, I don't do that. It won't be a good idea to squash that for
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Please.
So I think until we actually see the sky fall, that we can look at these projects right at the end of budget time. And if the sky hasn't fell on us, then there's an opportunity maybe to include something like that if it's necessary.
Yeah, and then that's the thing. I don't think it's necessary, and I don't know that we'll even be able to get it done this year if we can't get Dan out there till. Dan says he's going to get there, but got to be one of the busiest guys.
Thank you.
So, Commissioner Sound System, I got Dave's here to see if he can figure out where the feedback's coming from. I would ask that if you guys know how we can get it in the situation where you're getting that feedback so he can hear it. I don't know. So.
Is there someone on that's outside of our system, Jaron?
Tried this morning, and that microphone was really bad that we looked back.
Is there someone out in the community that we could ping and see if they can hear us?
Echoes for him?
Yes.
If any there that wants to do that or on. Computer right now.
We'd like to do a test of the system. If there's anyone online that would chat in with us, that would be great.
Okay, Mike Crosson, center.
Can you hear us okay, Mike? Yes, Ms. Tess?
You're cutting out really bad. It's really hard to hear. I can hear Doug pretty well a lot of times, but when the microphone's not really close to people, it cuts out really, really bad. So I don't know. It's pretty rough, though.
Okay, so unfortunately, and I apologize, Mr. Crosson, I had another conversation going, and the volume was turned down. Would you be kind enough to repeat that again?
Sure. It's really rough. At least I can't hear. I think some other people are having trouble hearing because it's cutting out really bad. It seems like it is much better when the microphone's close. Usually when Doug speaks, I can hear pretty well. I don't know if he's speaking louder or holding the mic closer or what, but like I couldn't hear Billy at all. Andre barely sometimes. So I don't know, but it's cutting out for sure. It's bad.
Sit on.
Turn these other mics up. Everybody's saying they
Were we able to turn that up so we could hear him better at the end? Or are we at maximum?
I can turn it up.
Okay, great.
If they're not right to your mouth, you don't hear them.
Correct. Okay. If you'd like to continue, please.
Yeah, I'll keep going. So we had the state inspector out. He wanted to walk through all of our buildings. That took an entire week, pretty much. Yeah, so that's a lot of time consumed there, just walking the buildings with him. We found some minor things, like but the emergency lights, the exit lights and stuff. Those are, we don't get to see those that often because we have generators most of the building. We have to replace a lot of those. They're not terribly expensive. There's quite a bit of little things we're going to have to take care of. Hopefully he doesn't want to do that too often because it really is just a huge time consume. I would prefer it if he just wanted to come walk through the buildings, like a couple, every once in a while instead of trying to walk through all of them in a whole week. But so that's all done. Rendezvous Point hood, we were having some issues with that. Not heating, it's the vent hood above the stove, but it's kind of some makeup air as well, and so it heats that air from outside, and that wasn't working, and we figured it out. It took a while, but there was some airflow issues, and it was getting too much, and it kept shutting off the heat. So they were freezing in that kitchen, but we got them taken care of. Some other small miscellaneous stuff that just probably is pretty old news at this point. And then mostly snow. I'm right there with Billy. We're just swamped with the snow right now. And I guess we'll just keep doing that until it's gone. So. This one?
Yes, sir.
Gonna keep talking?
Yep, just like.
All right. So anyway, this snow is a big time consumer too. So I'm gonna suspect the next meeting is gonna be pretty quick. Been doing, and then we, those guys get so many hours that I have to start sending them home. So have anybody to do maintenance?
So, know if there's any issues over there on the.
So I talked to Jay last meeting, and he said it should have leaked, and it did not. Like it was in the condition that it normally would have leaked. I've also, after he told me that, I was kind of using that as a test ground for the ice rink leaks that we've been having issues with, that we had some work done, and it's still leaking. And so I called the guy that did the fairgrounds, and he's given me a estimate on fixing the ice rink as well, and I'm going to tell him to go ahead and do it. I have the money in my budget because the last fixes we did over there didn't cost nearly as much as what we thought, so. Got remedied as well.
Things that
He said they didn't leak, and he said that they probably could have if we didn't get it fixed. I was up there, and the guy showed me what he was doing, and I was like, I just don't know how these are going to leak after he gets done doing all this. But so I'm not totally surprised that it didn't leak, but it's a constant battle for us on most of the buildings.
issues there. On your,
I haven't heard anything yet.
because last year they were.
I know. I was giving you guys a hard time because that's the constant battle for us anyway. So, but nothing this year so far.
Had the snow on there.
Exactly. Well, that's what I was trying to tell you guys. I'm like, every building was leaking that last year. And I mean all of them. We had a rough year last year with snow and the way it melted and the way the wind was coming in. And so we had a lot of little leaks that we don't normally have. And then this year, without doing anything on some of those buildings other than the senior center, we don't have those leaks. So.
Anything else?
Nope.
Any
I think
questions?
that's it.
For Andre? Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for coming.
Yep.
Up next, Chad Cooper, monthly report. Mr. Crosson, how's the sound coming across after some adjustments there?
It's much better, thank you. Much better.
His is much better too. Chad Cooper, online.
Mr. Chairman, I believe he's coming over, but you guys are 15 minutes ahead of schedule, so I just texted him.
Andrea Jean, there you are, please. Yes, ma'am.
That's 5 minutes off. You only have 15 minutes to talk.
That's fine.
Keep the mics off, you're not using
Okay.
because they're gonna ring.
Is this one's on? Okay. All right. So Easy Llama is our training program that we have. It provides the harassment training, safety training that will come out next year. Well, maybe the end of this year. And then other training that employees use if their supervisor deems it necessary or if they're interested in it. We have had it for a year now. We're going to be paying again. We're in a 3-year contract, but I did talk to them and renegotiate the fee. So we were going to be paying $9,250 this year, and we'll be paying $7,180. They were supposed to have the contract to me actually last Monday. I still haven't gotten it, so I was hoping to get it signed today, but I don't have it. But I just wanted to let you know that that's what it will be when I do bring it. It's just a lower fee that we have to pay for that. Okay. The other thing is last year we implemented performance reviews for employees based off a requirement. I don't know if it was a suggestion or a requirement. Actually, it didn't come directly to me from our liability insurance. So it was the first year that we did it, and I just wanted to check in and see if you guys want to continue that and do that again this year. I don't know, Carrie's not here, but I do think if it was a suggestion from our liability insurance, it was a strong suggestion. It wasn't just.
Historically, had we never done employee reviews?
Mm-mm. No, last year was the first year.
I think we should continue on that.
I know sorry, Mr. Chairman. I know the leaders took a pretty big beating from the employees about it. So I think we got through the first initial year shock of it Yeah, so I think it'd probably go over a little better this time, maybe.
Okay, thank you. Anything to add on that?
Well, who does the review?
The supervisors do the reviews. So you guys did them for all of the people. I don't know if you remember. The 10 employees. We set up a special time.
We would have done them for the department heads and the department
Yeah,
heads.
so isn't this kind of like the fox in the hen house? Really? I mean, what supervisor is going to say, I don't like this guy or this gal?
If I may interject, please. Typically, that's what occurs in every business annually or biannually. You will review an employee to suggest improvements or add a boy, add a girl. This is the direction we'd like to go. So it's a prudent business step.
Mr. Chairman, also, if I may, it provided a way for supervisors and employees to have goals that they could talk about, set them, and then they could review them this year and see if those were met, things like that. Different departments did have different setups and how they did it, but I think at the very least it was a really good opportunity for the department heads to come and talk to the whole commission and be able to, and it was done in executive session, so it wasn't an open meeting, and they were able to discuss and let you guys know kind of what's going on in their department, but also get feedback from all of you.
Mr. Chairman. So you always worry about everybody having your information. So were the insurance company recommended, did they get any of the information back from the county, and how would they use that towards something?
They don't use it. We're able to tell them that, yes, we do performance
I mean,
reviews.
why would they require it unless they see something that's going to get them out of something down the road?
So a performance review can provide the information to show the history of an employee, as if they were fired or terminated or quit or whatever, for whatever reason, and they had reason to bring a lawsuit.
So they have no access unless there's some kind of access.
Yeah, no. It goes in their file and no one else sees it.
Whose file? Our files?
Each employee file.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Vickery. Did you have more to add on that? I apologize.
I'm okay with it if there's a positive outlet, but I don't know. Who's going to say, I don't like this guy? I just refer back that, I mean, if a supervisor has issues with an employee, he should be down the road, or her, whatever the case may be. I don't know that this makes much difference. It wouldn't for me anyway. To have a review, if I'm going to review them. I know what's going on. I don't have to go through a review to, in my mind at least, that's me. But if it's something that can enhance, I'm not going to say no. But I have my reservations about whether it's a big deal or not. And maybe it is. You would like to see it, or not?
It's up to you guys.
Commissioner Bradley?
I suppose in today's world, we probably should. I mean, just get your ducks in a row and when it comes time to deal with an issue, person.
I'm okay with it. You know, I mean, I just. You always have concerns anytime like this, you know, but I'm fine. I mean, we'll see.
I'm good with it.
There we go.
Okay, do you guys want to set up a time for the department heads? Or do you want, I did bring, because you weren't here, but also as a reminder to you guys, the setup that was used for the department heads last year.
Thank you.
what you guys did is had each department head, it wasn't just department heads, it was also Brianne Brower and Peter Pollan, just to let you know. Fill it out and then get it back to you guys before the meeting so that you had time to review it. And then we set up, I think we did 15-minute increments. I do suggest doing a little bit more. We went way over on that.
So when was the last time we did it? What, you remember the dates?
It was in February.
Was it? Okay.
But we're okay. Into April is when we were trying to get all of them done last year.
While we're on the topic, when we go through, the department heads go through and reprimand or have issues with or praise, do they put everything in writing so it goes into the personnel field?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I would get those back.
Excellent.
And they're actually signed by the employee and by probably you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Excellent. And
So, Mr. Chairman, so Andrea, so let's pretend like for a minute that I'm going to fill this out. I'll be darned if I'm going to sit here and throw bullets at me, myself. That's what this is asking. It says enter up to 5 knowledgeable and skill factors from the job description and how well you fulfill them. Well, who's going to write down one and say, yeah, I'm not very good at that, and go on? I mean, I don't think too many are. And down here it says, describe how you have performed in the following category: dependability. Man, I'm there every day. Attendance and punctuality. I get there 2 minutes before the clock starts. Interpersonal skills, and I'm not sure what that is. I guess that's getting along with my fellow guy. I walk out of the day, or out of the shop every day, no black eyes, so I must have got along pretty good. What I'm saying is, I think who in the workforce is going to create their own grave, so to speak? Not very many. That's just me.
If I may, if we have a honest and that's the umbrella that everything is set up under a performance review on a job, and the supervisor and the employee set, and it's typical that they have to have a starting point. So a list like this is given to the employee and please give us your thoughts on where you think you are. And at the same time, what should be occurring is the employer or the supervisor outside of sitting with that employee, they do the same. And as they come together, they sit down and they share the information based on each specific topic here. And so I'm going to say, I think that we probably should have hooked that trailer up in this direction and gone this way first. And you would say, I think how it was hooked up was correct, or we should have hooked that up after we did a different job. And so it's sharing information, so it's a constructive step in helping employee become perhaps a little bit more proficient and effective in our department.
Well, it allows goal setting.
Exactly.
Steps for the
Correct.
future.
That's exactly right. Thank you, Commissioner Bradley.
Well, as I said before, I'm not going to say no if it's the goal is to reach out and have better personnel with these things, then I'm for that. But it just looks to me like
If they don't pat themselves on the back, they're missing an opportunity.
that's very true. But you know
But
as
at the
well.
same time, the department head can lighten the pat a little.
Yeah, exactly right. But you know yourself, there's not very many folks out there that's gonna not pat
That's
themselves
right.
on the back.
That's right.
And I would be one of them. There would be no reason not to with the questions here. But I'm fine. If it looks like it can work, so be it. I'm okay with that.
Thank you. Do we want to set this up for the second 2 meetings from now or the next meeting? No, probably should go out 2 or 3 meetings to give people time to. What's your recommendation?
That is fine. It's completely up to you guys and how long you want to give each person.
So are you talking just for us dealing with the department heads?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'd say set them up, starting in a couple meetings from now and do a few each meeting.
There we go.
You want to do a few each meeting?
That would work.
Get through them all.
Okay. And how long do you want to give each?
What was your experience last go?
A couple were okay with the 15 minutes. Most went into 20. There was some that went a lot longer than that. So,
Let's put 20 as a best guess.
okay. All right. So I'll get that. Is that the format you want them to use then?
Yes, I glanced at it and it appears to be appropriate.
Okay. I will get that out to them, and that's all I have.
Thank you so much. Mr. Cooper.
Commissioners, how's everybody?
Good morning.
Thank you for time on your agenda. I'm just here for my monthly report, so I'm happy to walk through that with you. I believe you all have it in your packets. All right, so for the month of January 2025, our budget's currently 47% expended. We still have about 1/3 of the budget year left, a little more than that actually. But so we're, in other words, we're not overspending our budget. It looks like we're on track there with having some money at the end of the year. I guess I'll make note of it. Andre's here now. One of the big things we have budgeted this year is some repairs that are necessary at Bondurant Fire Station. We've been waiting for the contractor to get some time scheduled. Hopefully this spring he can get up there and get those repairs done for us. And so we'll see what that time frame looks like. Underneath that, ML was able to submit a grant for $30,000 to purchase personal protective equipment for our firefighters through Marathon, one of our community vendors, or community industrial partners. We haven't heard back from that yet. Last month for incidents, there was 19 total incidents. You'll see a breakdown of where those incidents occurred at. There was 1 fire investigation that was conducted, and again, that's just for the large fire investigations when the team has to come out for that. Fire prevention, no public education events were scheduled. No fire west programs were scheduled, and we had 2 smoke detectors installed in the month of January. For training, the Recruit Academy is going strong right now. We have 8 state exams that were proctored. 1 certification was issued. So far, there's been 4 courses completed for the Recruit Academy, including the IS 100, IS 700, Hazard Materials Awareness, and Hazard Material Operations, which isn't listed there. We currently have 9 recruits that are working their way through the Recruit Academy, and we used the fire training facility for 2 days last month. And then for cooperative service meetings, I won't go into detail for those, but that's just kind of the meetings that I have on a regular basis with our local, state, and federal partners. And then the last part of that report is there was 44.75 volunteer hours that were conducted by our members. Those are not trainings, those are not incidents, that's just community events or whatever activities, cleaning the fire station or maintaining tools, equipment, or something like that. So that's all I have for the report. Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Any questions?
Well, I've got one, just because I'm not familiar with it. There's in the accounts payable, Mr. Cooper, there was find it here. Wyoming State Forestry Division for almost $80,000. What is that?
Mr. Chairman, Yeah, the emergency fire suppression account is a statewide account. All 23 counties participate in that account. And what that is it's not insurance, but you can think of it in a similar format. So when we have a large catastrophic wildland fire in any county, and Sublette County included, that includes state, private, federal ground, the cost of that fire could be astronomical. So, for example, and I'm going to butcher this number, so I probably shouldn't estimate it, but in 2018 we had the Roseville fire, which was a very, very expensive fire. Had we been on the hook to pay for the cost of suppression on that fire, it would have been the tunes of, if I remember right, $46 million, and I might be off on that for quite a ways, but in other words, I get the fires confused over so many years. I had the Cliff Creek fire and Fontenelle fire and so on, but each of those fires are very, very expensive to manage. Well, the emergency fire suppression account is the statewide account that we use in partnership with the state of Wyoming to pay for the cost of those fires. And the way the account works is based on your assessed valuation. They send us an invoice every year that we pay to belong in that account, and then the state legislature keeps money in that account. And that's one of the big things that we're working on this year at the legislature is because of the historic fire season we had last year. There was $39 million in that account at the beginning of the season. We expended all of that $39 million on the fires last year, and then actually had to go into what's called fire borrowing, where we borrowed $1 million from the governor's budget and another $1.6 or $1.3 million from Homeland Security's budget. And then we actually had to go in and borrow $20 million from the LSRA, the Legislative Stabilization Reserve account, which is kind of the rainy day account that the state legislature uses. So in total, there was nearly $60 million that were assessed for the cost of fighting fire just on state and private lands last year. That doesn't include the cost on federal ground. That $60 million is what went to pay for the cost of these fires, and our own county included. The Myrna Butte fire last summer was one of the fires that was an EFSA fire, emergency fire suppression account fire, that we receive benefit from, and that was paid for. The cost of firefighting efforts was paid for out of that EFSA, rather than submitting a bill to the Board of Commissioners to pay for the cost of those firefighting efforts. So to answer your question, Commissioner Vickery, the invoice that was paid was our annual dues in order to participate in that, and we've been participating in that really. I mean, I don't know when we joined, but long before I was ever on board, we've been a member of the EFSA, and like I said, all 23 counties participate in that account.
So is there dues the same for every county, or is it vary by land size, or how do they structure the dues?
So they assess your, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, they assess your dues based on your assessed valuation. So every year we get a different invoice based on our county assessed valuation. So when we have large years for oil and gas extraction, then our assessed valuation is up. So our invoice will be higher in those years and lower on the years where it's not. And different counties on the eastern part of the state would be significantly lower than Sublette County's assessed valuation invoice would be.
So, Mr. Chairman, so Shad, so that the state kicks in on this, or is it just the counties?
Mr. Chairman, yeah, the state pays the vast majority of those costs. I don't have an exact number off the top of my head. Years ago, we did do an assessment, and I guess let me put it in this context. So the invoice you have in front of you was $79,000.
Yeah, 79 and change.
So call that $80,000, and
yeah.
let's assume that $80,000 over 10 years, $800,000 would be what we put into that. Well, when we have a Roosevelt fire and we got to pay $30, $40, $50 million, the Fish Creek fire last year was $55 million. Fish Creek and Pap Trail fire just right on top of Togety Pass there, just right above us. So when you have those very large fires, the $80,000 that we pay in is pennies in the bucket compared to the overall cost of that firefighting resource. The state of Wyoming, the legislature appropriates funding based on need. And that's one of the big things that we're working on this year, is trying to get the state legislature to understand that account is currently at $0 balance, and they need to appropriate. We're asking for $20 million to be put into that account again this year, that would come from the legislature, and then each of the 23 counties puts in whatever their invoice is, but it's nowhere near as much as the state legislature puts into that same account to pay for these costs.
So you talk like you borrowed some against, or the state, somebody borrowed against it. So how in the world will they ever get that paid back? I mean, do they just write it off eventually? Because every year every year we have fires, I mean, big fires. We don't have little fires, So I don't know how the borrowing, like the Homeland Security, how would anybody be able to, unless the state coughed up tons of money, I mean, so the three you talked about were considered borrowing against. That's interesting.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, generally speaking, we don't go into what's called fire borrowing. What that is it's an emergency measure that we know that there's only going to be a set amount of money in the EFSA account. And like I said, last year at the beginning of the season, it was $39 million. Generally speaking, that number fluctuates up and down, but we frequently see about $20 million in that account. But if we have a bad fire season, we can spend more than $20 million on a bad fire season. So the fire borrowing is the vehicle that the state legislature's put in place that says, hey, if you spend more than your $20 million that you have allocated for emergency fire response, you can borrow money out of the rainy day account, the LISRA account. And then we go to the following legislative session, and they have to appropriate money out of the general fund to pay back the money that we borrowed from that LISRA account. So it's like a short-term borrowing where the state is borrowing money out of the LISRA account, and then the following session they make that whole again. They make the money that we borrowed out of the LISRA is an acronym, Legislative Stabilization Reserve account. So they appropriate money in the following session and make that account whole again and pay back what they borrowed from themselves.
Thank you.
So
Please.
So, Mr. Chairman, so Shad, as I watched this, some of what goes on down the legislature, and speaking of, I think the governor wanted to have a grant system set up. The legislature, in their wisdom, it says, no, we'll loan it to you. And they also brought that number down. I want to say it was $100 million, but they're going to loan it to cover some of that catastrophe that occurred on the eastern side. So if they're going to loan it, that tells me there's an interest involved. So how do those folks, or whomever gets that money, how do they pay that back plus the interest?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, that's a complicated question, Commissioner Vickery, but what you're referencing is Senate File 148. That's a bill that is all about post-fire recovery and what it's designed to do. In the governor's supplemental budget, he recommended it was either 170 or 130 million dollars. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it was 130 million dollars.
That's what I saw. Yeah.
He'd recommended in his supplemental budget request $130 million for post-fire recovery. And what his recommendation was supposed to cover was aerial application for cheatgrass mitigation for post-fire, especially in the eastern part of the state, but really the whole state of Wyoming is susceptible to this. Is cheatgrass competes very well and comes in, seeds itself, and establishes very quickly, and then really has a significant impact on the fire return interval. So meaning that what normally was native grass and sage and brush is now being competed out by the cheatgrass. Well, the cheatgrass will burn very frequently. Every 3 to 5 years is a common return interval for a cheatgrass field, where for a native grass and sage, it might be 10, 20, 30 year return interval for fire return for natural environment fires. And so the cost of firefighting goes up significantly because we got to more frequently return to put those fires out in the cheatgrass. And plus, there's a variety of reasons why it's not good for habitat and so on. But the governor's supplemental budget was meant to address that aerial application of, and I forget the name of the chemical compound that is necessary to prevent the cheatgrass from returning post-fire. But it's expensive to apply. It's very expensive, and as much of Wyoming that burned last year, there's a lot of it that needs to be applied and very quickly to prevent that cheatgrass from coming back. And so that's the reason why he included it in his supplemental budget. And then on top of that, of the cheatgrass aerial application, he also included recommendations to help landowners with recovery for fences, because there's literally thousands and thousands of miles of barbed wire fence that were burned in the various fires that happened throughout the state last year. And as ranchers at the table know, it's very expensive to replace miles and miles of fence on your private property. And so governor's recommendation was to try to address some of that. Now, he made it clear in his recommendation that only after, other avenues have been expended and were not successful. So in other words, you've tried going through, other grants or receiving, USDA loans or I don't know the details of what the checks were in his requirement, but he said that only after you've been turned down from those other existing avenues, then would you be eligible to come to the state and receive assistance from the state of Wyoming. And so then what ended up happening there is Senate File 148 was heard, which addressed Governor Gordon's supplemental budget request. And the legislature chose to reduce that amount pretty significantly. And off the top of my head, I want to say they brought it down to $100 million in the Senate side, and that's currently being debated in the House side. But also what they did is they split that, and the current proposal, last time I checked on that bill, was that they were going to divide aerial application of cheatgrass into one pot of funding that would be available for funding from the general fund from the state of Wyoming. But there's also going to be a separate pot of funding that was meant to be a loan rather than a grant. And the intent would be is that if private property owners needed to replace their fencing, their barbed wire fences, they could receive a low interest rate loan from the state of Wyoming. Last I heard, it was a 2% interest rate on that, and then I don't know what the payment terms were going to be, but the testimony that I heard was that the farmers and ranching community that thought that they would use that did not think that was going to be a popular solution because of the cost of paying back the loan even at low interest. It was going to be difficult to provide that. So anyhow, last time I watched that bill, Senate File 148, did move over to the House. It's currently awaiting a committee assignment, and we'll see if it moves to the House or not and where that lands at. But I do expect some changes before that gets to the final version.
Thank you. That brought me up to speed on what I didn't know. I appreciate that. Yep.
Any other questions for Mr. Cooper?
No, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to make a comment. I had the pleasure of going to your guys' annual year-end banquet, and celebrate 10 years of being unified. Very, very good show. Very, very informative. You brought in some of the people that were intimately involved with unifying fire. So good job, Shad. Thank you for that. And it was a pleasure hanging out with you guys.
I agree. Thank you for the invite. Okay, if that's it, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for that.
So it's probably out of order here, and I'll get reprimanded, never get to go home. But anyway, would it be a good time to ask about this license plate thing with you?
Remind me. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I mean, am I out of order? I mean,
No,
you
good.
don't want to come back, do you?
No, what? Mr. Chairman, I'm happy. Is that the letter to receive license plate for me?
Yeah.
Okay, yep.
Is that the
Thank you.
Cooper license plate letter?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think protocol dictates we have to have a motion and a second to move it up in the agenda.
I'm not qualified for that, but I'll make the motion. We move this forward so we can discuss it while Chad's here.
Second,
I'll second it.
all in favor? Aye.
Yeah,
Please continue. Please.
Jump in and introduce it, yeah. All right, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions about that. What year was that? It's been about 25 years ago or so. The state of Wyoming allowed firefighters to purchase license plates to put on their vehicles. It says firefighter. It's a specialized license plate that's designed, only for firefighters, and you've got to have some minimum qualifications. You got to be an active member of the organization. You have to be qualified as a structural firefighter for firefighter 1 and or engine boss, and I can't remember the rest of the requirements off the top of my head, but it's an annual requirement, and for the last 25 years I've had one of those license plates, and so what has to happen is my supervisor has to sign that letter. We've done it for the last 10 years that I've been here, and it's just a signature saying that I'm an active member of the organization and eligible to receive that license plate. I do the exact same thing for all. Right now there's 82-ish members of the organization. I sign their letter as their supervisor, and so for every one of our volunteer firefighters that wants that license plate, then I sign the same exact letter for them. It's just a standard form letter that we use for all of our members, but I can't sign it for myself, so we present it to the chairman to sign for me.
Yeah, so it's, Mr. Chairman, so I see quite a few of them around the county that says firefighter on it. That's what you're speaking of, is that correct? Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, yes, sir, that's correct.
Questions?
We need a motion for you to sign it? Or
Please do.
I make a motion to approve the letter allowing Shad to display the license plate.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Any further questions? Mr. Cooper, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Up next, Mrs. Saxton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right. First on my update is that we did receive the funding from the Colorado River Sustainability Campaign in the amount of $127,000. We had come before you, I believe, on December 3rd to discuss applying for that grant. You may recall that it was an invitation-only grant, and the idea was to both impact fire prevention and help our watersheds. That funding was awarded. The grant was a request for a WUI mitigation coordinator. That's Wildland Urban Interface Mitigation Coordinator. It includes their salary and their all the benefits and payroll liabilities associated with that. So it's a no-cost position to the county for that mitigation coordinator position. I did bring, if you would like to see it, I brought a cost breakdown of that $127,000 so you could see that salary. We did present it before, but I know, Mr. Chairman, you were not here at that time. And I brought the job description, which Commissioner Vickery, you had thought that was a lot of stuff. It has been narrowed significantly. So if you would like to see that job description, it is significantly narrowed to the task at hand to accomplish the purposes of that.
Yes, I would.
All right. Would you all like one? There are enough for everyone. Let me get that off. If you'll take one down, pass it around. And then I also brought the cost estimate that shows the $127,000 and that it would be all payroll liabilities, all benefits, and the salary associated with that position.
It's stapled. There must be.
Is this a one-year term only?
It is 1 year term with the option to apply again for additional funding.
Is it a one-year option or is it multiple based on year by year?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure I understand your question. We are granted the funding for 1 year with the option to apply again.
And can we apply again and apply again?
We can. I'm not certain. My recollection is it's up to 3 years.
That's close enough.
Okay. Of course, no guarantee on future funding, but the idea is that we will receive the funding within approximately 30 days of the signature on the contract. Clayton has reviewed that contract, and I emailed that to you this morning, but we also have a copy of it here for your signature. I would stand for any questions on that, and if all of that makes sense, I would ask that you sign that county attorney approved contract to receive that funding, after which we would then advertise for the position.
This position will be under SHAD?
It would be, yes. We decided to put it under Unified Fire.
Are you good with this, SHAD?
Oh, you are?
After a long time, I realized that there was.
So, Mr. Chairman, so if this is only a guaranteed one-year thing, so what kind of response, Mr. Cooper, do you think you'll get for folks, or have you already got some?
Mr. Chairman, forgive me, when I walked out, I realized after I got about halfway to the office that I needed to come back, so sorry for that. Yeah, to answer your question, Commissioner Vickery, I haven't solicited any input from anybody, and I wanted to wait and make sure that this went through, that the funding was appropriate, and everything's in place before we raised anybody's hopes on anything. From previous experience, though, that there are several grant-funded positions that are on a year-to-year basis. It's not uncommon to be funded in this format, and they're definitely competitive jobs that I think that people would be interested in, and I think this would be. I hope that it's something that would be filled.
With what the Forest Service is doing, there might be quite a few looking for this job.
I wasn't going to say that, but you're not wrong.
Okay, well, that was my only concern, is if somebody coming into this country that's not familiar with it and looks at a house that he can't afford and tries to buy it anyway, and then at the end of the year he's stuck there, or somebody is. So it's almost going to have to be somebody that does this from state to state to state, it would appear to me, so that there's another opportunity from here if we don't get the funding. That would, if I'm going to apply for it, I'd be pretty careful, I guess, what I'm saying. But anyway, so I guess just have at it. We'll see where it goes. Great. And so the year would start whenever this individual is brought on board. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, the position, the way the grant is currently written is to start March 1st, but we have the option, if we don't fill it that quickly, to extend that time period. So they would grant us a 1-year course with that individual.
Yeah.
Questions? Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, this time I'm really leaving.
All right, Mr. Chairman, the NACO's 2025 Western Interstate Region Conference registration has opened. One of the difficulties with these conferences is the accommodations fill up quickly, and so I wanted to find out if any of you have any interest in attending the conferences in Pennington County, which is Rapid City, South Dakota, May 21st through May 23rd. Because it's always a concern about accommodations, I have tentatively reserved 3 rooms so that we didn't end up in that situation, but I can cancel those. So, and I certainly can get more if more of you would like to go. So I just wanted to know if any of you are interested, who I should register, Do I need to get more rooms, cancel rooms? Where do we stand?
Mr. Chairman, register me, please, Janice.
Okay.
Tentative.
Anyone else?
I'll let you know by the next meeting.
Okay.
I'll let you know at this meeting.
You're a no.
So how are they gonna get there?
I don't know. That would be my next question. If people are going, are you wanting to drive, fly?
What is that, about 10 hours?
8.5.
You've been there, done that.
I was there last week.
So probably drive, presumably.
Yeah, most likely.
So I will reserve the vehicle also. All right. So I'll get you registered, Commissioner White registered, and wait on the two of you, but hold the rooms for now.
Please.
Correct? Okay. And Commissioner Stevens, I think you're a no? All right. Just wanted to update you all that we did. Chairman Bernard did sign the Bridger Teton Forest Plan Revision Assessment comments, and those were submitted. The next note on your thing is about a Bridger Teton February 21st meeting. That is not happening. That's a meeting that I actually didn't get an email for, but Mike Henn with the Conservation District had sent me that email. I followed up with him after these were printed, and he said that meeting is off. So take that off the list. You all know that upon your request, grizzly bear recovery program comments were written. A lot has changed since that. There's impetus by our delegation to delist the grizzly bear, and now our former Wyoming Game and Fish Director, Brian Nesvik, has been appointed as the top person in the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. He did get the job. So things are looking up for the delisting of the grizzly bear, but those comments are written. So I have them here today to be signed. Should you be interested in signing those and getting them sent off anyway? It's up to you. Or we can wait and see.
Mr. Chairman, I think we send them.
Good enough.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, there is a copy for signature then. Thank you. Okay, I just wanted to notify you guys that Commissioner White and I will be absent from the next meeting unless there's the opportunity to connect remotely. Depending on the schedule, we will be at the NACO conference. And then I also will be gone the next meeting because my son's coming home from his 2 years out of the country. So, regional transportation. There was a meeting on February 11th. Chairman Bernard and Commissioner White and Billy and Craig from Road and Bridge, Dennis from Planning and Zoning, Mike Jackson with Rio Verde, and I all attended that meeting. It was a request from the Regional Transportation Task Force to meet with the federal highways to determine some regional opportunities and plans. And two commissioners were there and may have some interest in commenting on how that went or what you see as the future of that. I sent you a follow-up email kind of talking about the difficulty for me in attending those without transportation expertise. So I just want to know the will of this commission. Do we proceed? Do we see value in the potential for the opportunity for funding? Do we feel like it's, not something we want to pursue? How are you feeling about that after that meeting?
Commissioner White?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, yeah, I'm torn on this one. I don't know I don't know what their end game is as far as, what their appetite is gonna be, to actually provide us any funding when push comes to shove. We've never had an issue partnering up with them in the past on some of our projects, so I don't know that this committee and/or meeting is 100% worth our time attending. Talked to Billy afterwards. I mean, Abe seems to think that it's highly valuable for the town of Pinedale and the municipalities. I just don't know where we play a role in this whole thing, especially, with the funding it is. We don't have a lot of appetite for chasing any of our own roads, let alone trying to do some more cost sharing with the state on some of their roads. So kind of my thoughts, I'm just kind of torn. I don't know whether I'm 100% ready just to scrap it yet. Still trying to do some more due diligence on my side on finding out what the end game is and what their plan is with this. Even though she did the presentation, I just don't know if I buy that 100%.
Good job. I'm kind of new at this, but I have better time to spend elsewhere. Because we're looking at, maybe we'll get a grant collectively for $10 million. It's like we're in the early pre-planning stage with no set end time to put things together. Or how many meetings are we going to have? Are we going to have 2? Or based on what I see of governmental meetings held, this can go on for another 70 meetings. So I don't have any appetite, and unless they come forward with something that's more enticing, I would back out of it.
And I'm good with that.
Okay,
Great.
Mr. Chairman, is that direction to tell her we are?
Nicely, not to bag it.
Right, okay. I will go ahead and do that then. Let's see. I notified you that Chairman Bernard and I attended the Wyoming-Colorado River Advisory Committee meeting on February 11th, and there are some details there about some of the outcomes of that. It literally was their advisory committee meeting, and we were members of the public attending that meeting, and I have documented there mainly what I heard from that. So if anybody has any questions about that, feel free to ask. I wanted to notify you, and I don't know who watches which types of news, but there's a Barrasso bill to block the BLM's finalized public land rule. That's that conservation land health rule. So all the things we've been doing for like the last 2 years.
It's starting to come together.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then I was asked by Public Health to advise you, and this is not on your report, but they have some spring closures at Public Health that are the result of doing vaccination clinics at locations, and she wanted you to be aware of those closures so that you didn't hear about them after the fact. They do request permission from the state, and they do advise you of these closures. So on February 26th, they'll be doing junior and senior Pinedale School vaccination. April 8th and 9th, Marbleton School and Community blood draw. April 23rd, they're closed for the Big Piney Middle School and High School vaccine clinics, and May 14th, they'll be closed for the 6th grade Pinedale School vaccine clinic. So just to make you aware in case anybody contacts you, and to make the public aware of those closures. And Mr. Chairman, I believe that is all that I had for you. If you have any interest in, at this time or at a later time today or at another time, I have some information.
I think that we're well ahead of schedule.
So, Mr. Chairman, Janice, the last bullet point here on your update on the Colorado River Advisory Committee meeting. So, do you want to give at least me an update on your thought process.
Yeah, let me get back to that because I've already buried it. All right. Yeah, so about the insurance and the measurement devices, is that what your question is?
Well, I'm looking down here at the wanting to put 2100 monitoring devices.
Yes. So this is, of course, related to the potential for restrictions on the upper water flows, primarily for irrigation. And so if they can make determinations about things such as evaporation loss, usage, how much is flowing downstream, I have some further notes on it so I can specifically go to those and answer you. But from my recollection, it's not necessarily that they're going to put in 2100 measuring devices, but if they were going to have one at each location, it would require 2100. And there is federal funding for that. However, should federal funding be used for whatever piece of metal gets put in the ground, then there would have to be an insurance policy on that for liability, and that would be to cover the feds because it would technically be paid for by them. And so they were concerned that ranchers may or may not be able, maybe they already have that type of coverage, that's an unknown, and so they are talking with conservation districts to see if there's a possibility of the conservation district taking ownership, and maybe that's too strong of a term, but some type of responsibility in having the conservation district's insurance cover that, but that's all still questionable at this point.
Okay, so I'm going to give my 2 cents worth on this deal. So let's pretend like they've put in their 2100 extra monitoring devices wherever they're going to be. They will be mostly on the main stem, like the Green River, the major flows, if you would. And once that occurs, in my mind at least, and I probably won't be here when it happens, but if that occurs, what will happen is you will have somebody in D.C. or wherever they're at, maybe down in California, with their smartphone, being able to monitor every drop of water that comes through your head gate. And what they're going to do, in my mind at least, is they're going to dial you down to what your actually adjudicated rights would be. And I can't say for every part of the world, but I can for my part of the world. If we had to just use adjudicated rights, this country would dry up and go away in a very short time. The flows that you see that occur all the time are because of the irrigation practices that folks in the West have, and that's flood irrigation. Case in point, those of you who have been here for a little while, you can remember when you drove into Farson, and that, what do they call that little river? It's just a
Little Sandy.
Yeah, the Little Sandy. Used to be a lot of water run through that rascal. So what they do, they put those pivots in, and now look at the side, it's a trickle. So I guess what I'm saying is, flood irrigation is like you putting money in a bank account. If you don't continue to put some in there, nothing's going to show up. And after a while, there's nothing in that bank account, and you're done. And that's what'll happen, I believe, if they put these type of structures in. And if it comes to that, I think those in the West that use flood irrigation, and there's a lot of us who do, will have a resurrection, or they had better, because this thing will drive them out of business. I know that's what'll happen, because I've seen pictures of 80, 90, 100 years ago when there was nothing but brush, and people got busy trying to build ditches and what have you. And today this country looks considerably different because of that. And if we're to stop that and just go back to a circumstance of squeezing down the water, it won't take very long. You know, in 10 years, you wouldn't know it. It just will be gone. Mac's little creek will dry up. It goes through his place. It's just the way it'll work. So this thing needs to be really carefully watched as it goes forward, I can tell you.
And Mr. Chairman, I believe this is all a result of the attempt to make those negotiations between the upper and lower basins.
Right.
And so the outcome of that will tell a lot, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, there's more yards and more lawns being built all the time in those southern states, and they all require water. And this is where it's going to come from, or at least part of it will. Anyway, enough about my soapbox. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Mrs. Saxton?
Would you like me to?
Yes.
About this case,
I passed them out already.
I have extra stuff attached to mine, so.
Oh, well, excuse me.
Let's see, I think.
I've got one of those, don't I?
Yeah, you don't
do,
have the
but
rest of the pages.
Oh, some more? There's more?
It's not necessarily homework.
Jeez.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to provide some more detail about each of these and what has been happening at the county and beyond in order to achieve some of these. Again, SMART goals are still necessary, but I can go through it as in-depth as you would like. But essentially, for each of the 5 things on the front, so for instance, number 1 has 2 different points to it. So there are 2 pages associated with that, and I tried to color code them so that you could match them up. But the first, on evaluate public facilities and infrastructure, the first item was commit resources to judiciously and actively maintaining and improving existing infrastructure. So I provided for you the fiscal year 24 and fiscal year 25 budgets that were allocated to things associated with maintenance and infrastructure, just so that you could see what those numbers are and how they compare. Ultimately, in order to make a SMART goal of that, we have to have a metric by which to measure it. So I thought it would be wise to give you this information and have you look essentially for fiscal year 25, if I have captured all of the maintenance and infrastructure items, and this is aside from capital improvements, just and vehicles and equipment. This is simply physical structures. 18% of your fiscal year 25 budget, excluding reserves, was dedicated to those things. This is not expenditures, this is only budget allocations. So you, as a commission, may, if you want to pursue adoption of a strategic plan, you may want to consider what would be a good metric for determining, is there a percentage, or is there some other way you would like to look at how that can be measured, whether we're meeting that goal. The next page is to form facilities committees tasked with developing recommendations for improvement and maintenance of county-owned facilities and infrastructure based on public input, best available data, and contracted expertise. And so I have just listed the things that I am aware of based on the project of either public outreach, contracting with experts in the field, and the discussions that have been had on these different types of infrastructure topics. So that's just kind of for your review. Feel free to get back with me with any questions. And again, I can go through it as much as you want, but essentially this was to provide you with feedback as to what I know has been happening throughout the county since we started talking about these things. I get more feedback from the health community than other communities, so public health, treatment court. And so if you want to switch to that yellow page that says create safe, healthy, thriving communities, number 2. I got SMART goals from on 3 topics from those agencies and have received some feedback about the outcome of those. But that kind of gives you an idea of where those agencies were going with their goals. And then at the bottom, I talked about other known actions. But one thing, one goal that came out of that was that you guys had talked about a wellness committee, and their goal was in 1 year, Sublette County will develop a wellness program to address the needs of Sublette County employees, including identification of access to resources to support utilization of mental health, medical, and preventive care. And you, as a commission, have done a lot to promote that in the last year, and so I kind of itemized those. For instance, you adopted the Wyoming Employee Assistance Program that gives 8 sessions of mental health. You approved the Massa Life Flight. You adopted the Affordable Care Act wellness program, so that wellness is covered now on our insurance. So anyway, this is just a summation from my perspective of how these goals have been coming, and we can have follow-up if you'd like to try to finalize those metrics to keep this moving or stop it or whatever you choose.
Well, I'd say this is great. I haven't seen anything that come out of those meetings, and this might be a good base to work from.
Yeah.
I'd say you did well.
Good job.
So please look that over, call me with any questions, and if you'd like me to go through it all, I can certainly go through it all.
Any questions?
Good.
Thank you, Mrs. Saxon. Appreciate everything. Up for a 10, 15-minute break?
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize. Can I get you to sign that contract for that funding on the $127,000? I'll get it from Clayton.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, thank you for your time and efforts on this. Up next is Mr. Malinkovich, County Attorney, Contracts. Can individuals outside of our system hear us clearly and do a system test for us?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Hopefully you can hear me. So the only contract I had for signature today,
Great, thank you.
that you all just signed, but wanted to update you on the Little Colorado, that agreement. We're finalizing some. I met with folks from the town, and we're good on our agreement with the town on that. They're going to run it by their governing body and make sure everybody's on the same page, and then we'll all have a memorandum of understanding to present to this group on that cost share for the Little Colorado. And then once we get that finalized, then I'll have final signature pages for the county's piece of the Highland Ditch agreement. That's just an update of where we're at. Any questions on that?
No, thank you.
And I don't have any other updates on contracts unless you all have questions for me on other things.
Questions?
Okay.
So Roundwood Point, we ever gonna have a contract on that? It's ended in the 31st.
That's in the works. I need to follow up with Sheriff Lear this morning on some of their communication with Rendezvous Point, and we'll see where that's at.
So I'd be asking you the wrong person if he's made any deals with somebody's supply food.
It is my understanding that they're working on trying to figure out next year's contract at this point. And like I say, I can't speak for Sheriff Lear or that department on this, but it is my understanding that in the next budget year, that's where they're hoping to have the long-term plan ironed out, and that they will continue a short-term plan between now and that next budget year, which would be July. But I'm meeting with Sheriff Lear either today or tomorrow, and I'll have more information, or I'm working with him on it, is I guess what I mean.
Mrs. Saxton, can we arrange to have Sheriff Lear at our next commissioners meeting to go over the contract, find out where we stand with meals, and further identify IT issues within their department? Thank you. That's outside of what you're doing.
Okay. Any other questions for me?
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Monthly reports, accounts payable, have all had a chance to review and go through. If so, any questions?
Chairman, I move that we approve accounts payable in the amount of $858,122.47.
Have a motion.
I'll second.
Have a motion and second to accept $858,122.47 in our accounts payables. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Up next, catering permits.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the water hole number 3 for Muley Fanatics at the fairgrounds, Lakeside Lodge, Titan Adventures with catering permits.
Okay. Lakeside lot. Second on both.
Yes.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
We'll do the surety bonds.
We'll do the surety bonds now too, please. Commissioner Bradley.
Make a motion to approve surety bond for District 9 Recreation Board.
And
And a surety bond for Elizabeth Carlin for BOCES Region 5.
You said Elizabeth, eh? Craig Smith?
Oh, yeah, and Craig Smith for Sublette County Recreation Board.
Great.
3 surety bonds.
Power of attorney. Excellent. Have a motion, second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Start down there. Mrs. Illaway, please.
Really?
Am I the first one?
I have 2 abatements for Wapiti operating, one in the amount of $253.28, one for $1,801.60 for tax year 2022.
Questions? Motion to accept.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the state assessed notice evaluation changes as presented by Illinois County Assessor.
Thank you, Commissioner White. Second. All in favor?
Aye. They were small, so.
Thank you so much. Treasurer, Mrs. Parashini.
We don't sign these.
You sent us the whole pile to sign.
Mrs. Parvasini.
I don't know if she had anything.
Okay. And had it down as an update. We'll just accept the bond approval and call that complete. I guess we're ready for lunch that's not here.
Mr. Chairman, I let her know you're ahead of schedule, and she's here in about 15.
Thank you.
Old business.
Pardon me?
Can we do the old business?
We can move to old business. Absolutely. Does anyone have any old business to address?
Yes, sir.
Please.
So I was able to attend my first joint powers meeting
For the PAC.
with the PAC. Actually did a tour of the whole facility. Pretty impressed on the way they run their operation down there. Very enlightening. It's amazing. I think last month they had over 7,000 visitors. Now, granted, a lot of those were repeat customers coming in from the days, but when you think about 7,000 people going in and out of that pack in a month, and like I said, keep in mind that that's a lot of same people, multiple days visiting, but pretty impressive.
It truly is. That was a great job. I'm sorry, I saw an update behind your name, and I thought you might have something to share with us.
No, Mr. Chairman, the only thing I wanted to mention, and if you look at your report that you guys all have, I added a little bit of information on there. On the bottom right-hand side, you'll see the amount of property tax that we collected. That's this column down here, with a breakout as to what the county portion is of that revenue. Did you not get that one then?
Well, I thought I had it at one point. I've shuffled my papers so much, so.
I have another.
So that was the only difference that I made on this
Here it is.
report right here. This section up here is the hospital balance. So right now, the amount of balance we have in that account, and I don't have my glasses, so I think it says 5 million.
Is there any way we can get bigger font? This is a little tough to handle.
The struggle is that this is as big as the paper comes, and in order for me to get it all on one page, it is kind of small. So
It's kind of small.
I know.
What do you call small if it's
So
kind of
if you
small?
have readers, I suggest you put them
Yeah,
on.
I do, and they don't work quite like that.
So anyways, if you want me to put those on two separate reports to make them bigger, I can, but then you have more paper to look at. That's the only thing. And then, of course, if you look at this is the investments spreadsheet, or sorry, GL report, and it shows the interest that we received this year, but then those two at the top, the ICS transfers, those are the monies in and out of that savings account that we use to pay the bills. And so that's why that balance went down quite a bit from last month. The month ending January was 197 million. As of the end of, sorry, that was December. The end of January is 183 million, so pretty big chunk taken out. And then as far as this is the checkbook. This is the monies in and out this month. Again, it's really small, and I apologize. I can make that on a legal size, so it's a little bit bigger, but there's just no getting around 20-year-old eyes, which none of us have anymore.
So, would you mind going back and tell me what's left in the hospital account? It's $5 million and
it's
something.
5,212,540.29. And that does not include a check that we wrote as part of the AP today that was 385,
yeah.
I think, 385,000. So it's just under 5 million.
So, okay.
Because I printed this before that was given to me, so it does not include that. But next month will include that check that we wrote.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry to have bothered you. Thank you. Okay, we had old business. I'd like to bring Mr. Smith up, if possible, to go over what his findings and or recommendations are on our sound system. We've been chasing this now for a couple months, and we might be closer to resolution, or we might need to go out and obtain some further hardware. What are your thoughts, please? Would you care to join, Ms. Copeland? Sorry.
Make sure your mic's on. There you go.
So anytime you have more than one microphone and more than one sound source, which is a speaker, and they're playing together in any environment, you're going to have a regeneration of sound. And when you have that, the more you manipulate it, the more you play with it, the more likely it is to feed back and ring. So what we've been doing this morning is just trying to get everything set to nice levels where the system plays nice with itself. But you've got a big dynamic out in the internet world, out in the cloud with other users, and they couldn't hear. So we turned their source up, and we turned the amplification in the room down, and we played with some equalization. You can do a lot more. There's no limit to how complicated you can make it. But in my opinion, you should keep it as simple as you possibly can and have it still work. You have to raise the complexity and the amount of stuff involved in it to get it to meet the need of what you need to do. But at that point, stop. Don't keep putting fancy bells and whistles on it, because anytime you have a bell and whistle that can be adjusted, touched, moved, turned up, or turned down, it's going to get sideways in the mix, and then it requires more attention. Lisa or somebody will have to, hand feed it and care for it every time you use it. So try to keep it simple.
The only input I have is we had the Polycom microphone turned on, and so it was picking up a lot of sound in the room, which kind of helped with the audio, but it was picking up somebody sitting underneath that camera and the paper rustling. So we shut that off. So that kind of changed our audio a little bit. We've kind of had a problem with public coming in and adjusting the knobs on the sound system. So we moved it from an unlocked cabinet into the locked cabinet and had him set the settings so we can have it maybe locked and it doesn't get adjusted all the time. This Polycom is an older device, not necessarily designed for Microsoft Teams. We've kind of made it work with what we have. I have ordered a new device that will sit back behind this locked cabinet that won't be turned on and off, and a new camera that we can put up in the ceiling to try to improve on it. And so it might help on our Teams connection a little better, to where it handles the audio a little better than the old camera that we currently have. I mean, until we try it, and then get a new TV up on the wall that you'd asked about. If you want it the same size as this one, and if you want it on that wall, mounted on the wall, or if you want it on a cabinet. That was the only question I had. But
probably on the wall, so it can recess back so it's flush there. And it can be the same size, I would think. Unless we need a bigger monitor for this table so we can see it better.
I was thinking personal ones. So
okay.
But when myself listening on the other end, when Dave made the changes that he did, it made a considerable difference. But like you'd said, if people don't speak into the mic, if they're this far away,
Can't
hear, and
you can't help them.
I can't control that if we don't make the people speak into the microphone. I mean, see the difference of this is how you're supposed to be talking into it.
So make them hold them, then they would.
Right.
This way they just...
Well, but you'd be surprised when folks hold a mic, because some folks get real nervous when they do that, and they get the mic down here and it doesn't work down here. The other thing I would, and Lisa, you hit on it, is that Polycom mic, keep that off at all costs.
It is off, yeah.
Yeah, because you guys are feeding it from there via these mics, and these mics are being amplified in the room. So the second that Polycom mic goes on, you've got a great big loop. And then whoever is running the meeting, you guys need to be real militant about the audio coming in from the external users. That has to be muted until it's just one user requesting to speak.
Yeah, because somebody out in the gallery on Teams, if they're presenting, then they'll hear the feedback come from these speakers. But if you turn their volume down a little bit, they won't get near the feedback. But
yeah,
it's just because they're hearing the speakers in the room.
Right, and those speakers shouldn't be your TV. You should only have one set of speakers making sound in any one space. And in the room, the only speakers that should be making sound are your sound system there. If somebody comes in externally, they need to be plumbed into that system, not coming off of a separate sound source, whether it be a Polycom speaker or a television speaker. It's got to come out of the system that goes through there. Otherwise, you've got two sources making sound in different phases. And when all of that mixes, it just sits and regenerates, and that's when you get the feedback and the weirdness. So.
And plus, when we put this new system in, we'll be able to direct connect the new Polycom device, with a short cable instead of a long one that's running clear back right now. So, hopefully that'll help a little bit on the audio too, but.
Do we need to acquire any additional hardware or assets to go with this?
I don't think so. I know it's painful to go slow and not fix it with one big silver bullet, but you can buy as much stuff as you like, but in the end, you're probably not going to need a lot of that stuff. So if you've got a new Polycom inbound, put that in, tune it up, see how it works, and see if it's going to work for you. If we go down into the wormhole, then we'll equalize each mic channel with an individual 31 band industry standard equalizer and tune it to the room. And that you can hear right now in the room when I talk. There's just a little bit of droney echo, and it's between 160 and 400 cycles. And it's just, all rooms have resonances, and all rooms have spectrums in this frequencies in the sound spectrum where they're very attenuative. They absorb that sound. Every room is different. And each microphone is different. The frequency responses of these mics are different than the mics that are on your lapels. And you can tune each one, but I don't think we should do that, or you guys should plan on doing that until you have to, because that gets equipment intensive.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And thank you for your time. Appreciate all you're doing.
And if you guys would get in the habit of having people turn their mic on when they talk, and when they leave, turn them off, that'll help your sound quality a lot. Rid of all that echo.
Sure. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Additional old business. We had some constituents over in Big Piney come by and provided us with a letter. I'll take a minute and read through it, and I appreciate your time and effort on this for the county's behalf. This is from Truth Ministries, Pastor Terry L. Smith, and I believe congregation, dated January 27th, to all whom this may concern. The first part of January 2025, the Lord visited me and began to stir in my spirit and speak to me about the matters of the new hospital project. I was quite moved about this, so on Saturday, January 4th, 2025, we met on Saturdays for the Sabbath. After our morning prayer, I shared with our congregation all that the Lord had laid on my heart concerning this new hospital. I then opened the service up to input, comments, opinions, and questions. For the next 2+ hours, this is what our entire service consisted of. We discussed it up and down, back and forth, in and out, and from every angle. At the end of our service, we were left with, what does the Lord want with our part? What does the Lord want our part to be in this? I'm very pleased with the plans and location of the new hospital. As I looked at the plans and heard some of the details, I became mindful of all the thought and love for people that was built into these plans. What really moved me was the fact that they had thought to include the Sublette Center in these plans, including the garden centers, which are so important to the mental health of our elderly, and enabling them to go outside, breathe the air, watch the birds and butterflies fly by, and listen to the sounds of life. The playground, which will bring such joy to the elderly. They love to see children, and now they will be able to watch them play and enjoy the sounds of their voices and laughter. I'm aware that there are individuals in our county who are against this hospital, but our county needs this hospital. They don't realize it yet, but they do and will need it too. I'm exhausted by all the years of division in our county, the this end and that end nonsense. I live in Big Piney, but I believe that the hospital has built in a perfect location, and I'm not the only one that believes that. My prayer after many years of division and strife is that the people of the county will wake up to the fact that we are one county. Division weakens, but unity strengthens. We can be stronger and do great things as one, working for all the good of all. It is time for the adults in the whole county to rise up with greater vision and make judgments for the best of the whole. I want to make special note that our whole congregation supports the success of this hospital project now and into the future. As a result of this meeting with our congregation, I called a special board meeting on Saturday, January 25th, 2025. After a very productive time of conversation, it was a unanimous decision to immediately give a $10,000 check to the Sublette County Health Foundation to go toward the completion, opening, and staffing of this new hospital project. But not only that, but we agreed that we would support this project with effectual, fervent prayers to uphold this project verbally and to refute lies and false information as opportunity presents itself. Let's finish this hospital. Blessings and success. Signed by Pastor Terry L. Smith. Terry L. Smith of Truth Ministries in your congregation, thank you so very much for your very thoughtful and accepted gift. Other old business. One item that's come up over the past 2 months is we have a number of department heads that we can see on a regular basis, Mr. Pape, Andre, and a couple of others that come in and share time with us. But I think, and Mr. Cooper, I think that from a board perspective or community perspective, maybe we would like to have and I thought originally of managers meetings where we have the department heads come in outside of the board meeting and we chat with them to find out what's going on in their world. They interact trying to bring everyone up to date on what they're working on, identify different cost-saving measures that they have implemented, and maybe point out waste that they see in the county or things that we can do better. Because to be honest with you, we can't see everything that's going on. And these individuals are out there on a daily basis across the county and they have employees that are looking at everything. And in the course of doing that, I go back to, well, maybe having a meeting outside of the commissioners, managers meeting, department head meeting, outside of the commissioners meeting may not be the most fruitful. Maybe we could incorporate that at the end of a commissioners meeting, whether it's monthly, every 2 months, quarterly. And this is just a larger topic to talk about and see if it has any merit in doing. See if we could make it so rather than individuals feeling that they're being called to the principal's office, that we have a very valid, open roundtable discussion about where are we. And it's not to dictate to, purpose of this would not be to dictate to department heads what they should be doing, but the purpose would be to listen to the managers or department heads telling us that this is what we think we could be doing. This is what we see for improvement. This is maybe where we can start representing the constituents of the county in a better fashion. So that's kind of the emphasis of what I'm addressing. And I don't know if anyone has any interest in it, if it's all a wet idea, if it's something that we should just not even talk about.
Chairman, I'm not opposed to the idea. I think, as long as we remember that no decisions can be made in that meeting outside of an open meeting. But
100% spot on.
I'm not opposed to the idea.
Would you be opposed to, since no one else is talking, I'm going to presume that they're not for it. No, I'm pulling your leg. I would think that because of the concept of department head or manager's meeting, that is mandatory. Because if we make it volunteer, we'll never get people that The first couple times will be hard because they don't know what to expect, and we certainly don't know what to expect. But possibly it could open the door with their requested participation, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah. Be worth a try.
Yes, okay, thank you. Mr. Vickery? Commissioner Vickery?
Well, I see no issue with it, but I'm wondering why it couldn't be just however many department heads are involved. If there's an even number, 6, and every other week, in other words, once a month, these 3 would come in, and then the next meeting, the next 3 would come in, so that we have, it's not a long drawn out affair is what I'm thinking. And I don't know why it couldn't be done. Like today, for instance, we have a meeting that's gotten over with, it's going to get over with pretty darn good, and I suspect that it could be incorporated into a regular meeting at the end or just before we get started. I don't know that. I'm kind of iffy on having another meeting just for
What would
something.
be wrong with having them come in for lunch, sitting around there at lunchtime?
Nothing.
Talking.
Good. Commissioner Stevens?
Well, I think it'd be good. I wish they'd come into these meetings and like a situation like that instead of grumblings we hear from that some of them are bringing out. I mean, I don't know why they couldn't bring it here. I'd rather hear it firsthand if they got a complaint.
Exactly. And it would be, and I would like to stress this, that it's not an employer to employee scenario. It's an open discussion. We're working together and trying to identify what's good for the county. And we're not going to say, for example, well, why the heck weren't you out there doing your job, or tell me what you did last week. It's what can we do to accomplish this. I recognize what you said about bringing 3 or 4, 2, however many in. One of the things that I would toss out there also is you could bring them all in, and the first couple of times let them get to know each other, and then do a rotating where no one is ever with the same person the following time, if that makes sense.
Well, I suspect, sounds workable to me, but I suspect that all department heads are pretty familiar with each other and what they do within their department. I think we've got I don't know where I put mine a bit ago, but something that borders on what we're talking about, employee, I call it self-incrimination.
The review process.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
But to be honest with you, Commissioner Vickery, you have that every day with your cows. And so I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. No, but what I just think, I like the lunch idea because we're all going to be here for lunch. It's not going to create another day to get away. And if it's another 30 minutes or so, so be it. We can eat lunch and have the discussion if there is a discussion. If there needs to be a discussion, most of these folks are going to come in, and at least I think we're going to see basically what we've seen on the reports for the ones that do come in. I don't know. It'll take a little getting used to from their part.
It's outside of the box. Yes, I get it.
Well, I think they ought to all come to begin with, because there's several departments work pretty closely together. Jay and Billy and Andre's in the mix of all of them. Have everybody sitting around.
Sure. And I'm talking about department heads, not the elected officials. I would think that they would be welcome to come if they wanted, but they're outside of our purview, and does that make sense?
Well, it would, but and using Billy Pape as an individual, one of the department heads, he's been on this forever at 9 o'clock. So now to treat him fair, if it's going to be a lunch thing, do we still want him here twice a day, so to speak?
Yeah, perhaps we redo the agenda to fit them on the days they're coming. I don't know.
It's a great question. Because we do have a couple that come on a regular basis, and you're correct. For Mr. Pape to come at 9 o'clock and then come back at lunchtime is probably not the fairest thing for.
Yeah, well, I think that's, one of the logistics that probably need to be worked out.
Okay.
So fit a time frame that, and Andre's here pretty darn regular too.
Correct.
So fit a time frame that would be, that would work for those folks.
Should we set this aside until next meeting, and we can reach out to a couple of the different department heads that are a regular presence here and see what kind of...
Maybe we should discuss it with them all during the review. Get back with the idea.
That's a great time to do it, Commissioner Bradley. I think that works. When we have the review here in a couple of weeks with them, we'll just further discuss it at that point in time. Does that work? Good point.
That's next month.
Speaking of that, we better not start them till after the 4th. Hate for you to miss out on one.
You guys go right ahead.
And we better start them in mid-March.
Okay, any other items for old business?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Please.
Just briefly, on that idea, even though you won't be making decisions or anything else during that time period, it would still be subject to that, to the meeting, and you would need clerk representation and minutes to be. But you're still receiving information from your department heads, which counts as a meeting.
I recognize that. Thank you for that information. Now, if we decided to have it outside of this meeting and there were only 2 commissioners, would that still be valid?
It would not, if it's not a meeting, then yeah, that would not be a meeting. If it was just 2 of you meeting with one.
What about 2 of us meeting with 10 department heads?
That's fine as well.
Okay, thank you. I just needed clarification on that so we can consider everything. Okay, if there's no other questions or items, shall we wrap it up, or do we want to hang out here for a bit and be cool?
Let's wrap it up.
I'm ready for wrap too.
Motion to adjourn?
Any public comment?
Oh, thank you so much. Is there any public comment? One more time, any public comment is welcome.
You should be able to, Mike. You just have to unmute yourself.
Mike, can you come off of mute?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Once again, there's a bad echo on this, just so you're aware, but otherwise the meeting was the best ever, I think, today as far as clarity once the initial bug was worked out. So I appreciate your efforts to continue to try to make the public more informed by being able to actually hear what's going on there. I'd like to just briefly follow up with the visitor center issue, and I want to thank the commissioners, I believe Commissioner White and probably some others who addressed that, and I guess maybe perhaps your actions got that site cleaned up a little bit. That said, it's still terrible. It still talks about rocketing through McDougal Gap. And they added yet another picture of a Jeep that, by all appearances, is off-road, standing on an overlook of a bluff of a mountain or something like that. And so I just don't believe that the way tourism is being promoted by the board or who in the town and whoever else is doing this is in line with our county values. And I again, and Mr. Pollen's number is still the contact person on that website. So they got rid of the two most egregious things about harassing fishermen and chasing wildlife. But the other stuff that needed to be removed, apparently they thought wasn't a good idea. So I again believe that we need to take a different view of tourism in this county. I believe Mr. Pollen's mission should be changed to mitigate the problems of tourism instead of promote more of it, and disengage from involvement with the visitors, with the website and the groups that are responsible for that. Because it comes, when his number is listed as the contact person, it comes back on you, and it still talks about driving through lush green grass, for example, and you know, that's not the message we want to be sending. The message is clearly stay on the roads, don't drive off the roads, you know, don't do all these things that they're still, you know, don't drive where there's no road to overlook the edge of a mountain. And it still has the picture of the UTV in a field of flowers as well. So that kind of stuff is still there. Mitigation is critical, I think. You look at what's going on with the first thing that's really been hit hard by tourism in our area is the fly fishing guides. The rivers are a zoo now. The legislature's struggling to come up with a solution. I don't know if they will this year, but that's a huge problem. That's just the first one of many. I recently returned from Utah, down in southern Utah by Kanab, and we went for a hike, and you have to draw for a permit down there to go to a lot of the neat places. And they're low percentage odds. It's like minimal, low percentage, single digit percentages to draw a permit for like the wave. And that means locals can't go there when tourists are coming and taking all those permits. So I guess I'd like this commission to start thinking long term about what you want out of tourism. How much is enough? How much is too much? And start, I guess, acting in accordance with some kind of mission and vision as to where you want this to go. We do not want to end up like Jackson, and before you know it, we're going to be Jackson, complete with all of their politics, which we all say we hate here, and I certainly do. I don't want to be, you know, captive to a bunch of liberal ideology like they are there, and Republican thought is dead in Teton County. We all know that. It'll happen fast here if we do not get a handle on this. And tourism is not the kind of economy we want. It's low-paying jobs. They use a lot of resources. I mean, think about the helicopter we pay several $100,000 a year for. I mean, we're constantly extracting tourists, some who are merely unfortunate, some who do stupid things. But tourism has costs. They're going to get medical care. The employees that don't have health insurance are going to be going to the new hospital that we just heard the letter about, getting treatment, and they're not going to be able to afford it. So I just ask you to really, really dig deep, think hard about where you want tourism to go, how you want the county to approach it, and get a plan for it. Because right now we're just floundering in the wind. There's no plan as I see it. We're just begging for more with no plan really how to deal with it. And those consequences are coming. I mean, you go to Sacred Rim up in the Wind Rivers, you know, 15, 20 years ago, you had to know where that trail took off to go there. And, you know, locals knew, you know, several, but now it's a 4-foot wide dirt path that nobody can miss because the hordes of tourists, that's where the visitor center sends them to go on their day hikes. So please just consider what you're going to do about it and what the mission of the county is regarding tourism. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Now, my understanding on that, Mr. Crosson, from a conversation with Mr. Linkovich here is that is not coming off the visitor center website, but it's a link that's tied directly to the town of Pinedale that's putting out that information. Is that correct, Mr. Milinkovich?
Mr. Chairman, yes, and Mr. Crosson, good to hear from you. As you all discussed last time, there was a link from the county's website as a partner. I don't recall, I believe you gave direction to Mr. Pollen about, I can't remember if you guys directed him to do something about that link or anything else or not. But right now, as of the last time I checked it, there is a link on the website to the visitor center's partners, one of which those partners is the town of Pinedale, and that's where the language is and the images that Mr. Crosson is talking about. And I believe that and somebody else who has the minutes can probably correct me, from the meeting last time, Mr. Pollan explained why the phone number was on the Town of Pinedale's website that went to the visitor center, but I cannot recall, and I can't speak to that.
Thank you. Since we're speculating on this, although we did vote to spend the additional money based on the Friends of Jackson Hole Trust, whatever the heck they are. Okay. Although we did, as he was getting up, I didn't ask. I told him specifically to remove all of that information. And thank you, Mr. Crosson. It appears not. Mrs. Saxton, would you make a point to invite him to our next board meeting, please, so we can address this and so he fully understands the depth of what he missed my saying? Is that good for everyone?
Mr. Chairman, so I've got it bundled up, but I got it turned on. I think, as I recall, I was fairly explicit. I said divorce from that situation because I thought it was just bad news.
But we were outvoted. It was a 3-2 vote on that, Commissioner Vickery.
Well, that could be.
Well, it is.
But it still needs to be tuned down because, as I said then, I'll say it again, I don't think we need to caution the folks that are familiar with the country. It's the ones that are going to come in here and say, oh boy, I'll go rent me a side-by-side or a four-wheeler and I can go wherever. And that was the message that at least I thought that was being given. And it's not good for our county, period. So anyway, that's all.
Yeah, your point's very well taken, and I think that we need to address that to fully identify if we had a miscommunication or we need to adjust our guidelines on that. Thank you. Is any further public comment, please? One last time, any further public comment? And thank you for that, Mr. Crosson. Nothing, Jaron?
Nope.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn.
Second? Moved and second to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you so much, everyone.
Make a note, 11:37.
That's a record.
It's a record.
Jaron, you did a heck of a job putting this agenda together. Yeah.